Good afternoon. Welcome back to A Celtic State of Mind. Final score on the Glasgow derby is Celtic 2, Rangers 3. Celtic losing by a late goal after, I think, what we would say is an improved second half performance. But over the course of 90 minutes, Sean, I think it's fair to say not good enough.
Yeah, well, look, we basically lost that game in the first half. There was a lack of fight, to be honest. Yeah, look, Lazarus came to play the game their way, and they weren't better than us. They weren't, but they played the game better than us. They fought better. They had a good press. They took 20-30 seconds each throw in. Had players going down pretending to be injured. So all the stuff that you need to do to demonstrate that you just want the game more. And then they did. They wanted it more. And that was kind of what told the difference. Second half, we were better. We showed a bit more fight. We went in, we got into the physical battle. We called them on their theatrics. The referee still let them away with it anyway. But how Diamande gets off the pitch without a booking is beyond me. But Stephen McLean and his Lodge friends will know, I'm sure. But yeah, look, I don't want to make too much of the referee's performance, because that wasn't really what cost us it. It was our. We were just off it in the first half. We just weren't up for the battle. We weren't up for the fight. We were rattled, and we got it. Yeah, we managed to get it under control for 30-40 minutes in the second half, and then when we get to 2 each, they kind of start playing again a little bit, and they get 2 chances and score one of them. And yeah, look, that is what it is. The thing that stood out for me the most, I think, was, I don't know if you noticed, but there was a lot of times where the centre backs were passing it just between each other.
Yes.
And I don't care so much that the centre backs are passing it between each other, but what that means to me is that it indicates there's a lack of movement in front of them.
There's no outlet.
Yeah, exactly. And I noticed that a few times where the camera pans forward and there's players kind of strolling. That troubled me, and I don't know where that comes from, to be honest. I don't know what's going on here. I'd be interested to hear what the excuses are. And I wonder if they feel like they have any excuse that they get to just kind of put in a below par performance, and they've taken it, because that's what happened in January. They had excuses, players injured, sickness, whatever, and they took those excuses and they delivered below par, and they've done below par again today. So yeah, we did well for 30-40 minutes there, but we lost it in the first half, and it wasn't enough overall.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's always a challenge when you're chasing the game after such a bad first half. I think if we'd gone out at half-time 1 goal down, you'd have felt more optimistic about the chances. But 2 goals down, it's a lot to come back from. And to our credit, we did. The team managed to come back, make it 2 each. But as you've said, and has been said in the comments quite a bit, you cannot turn it on for 20 or 30 minutes in a 90-minute game and expect to win. It just doesn't work that way. And irrespective of how they perform throughout the season, this is our biggest rivals in terms of the Scottish League, and you have to be on it for the 90 minutes, and we weren't. A couple of things I want to touch on. I completely agree with you in terms of the too much passing around at the back and clearly not enough outballs, and that was evident across both halves. Does that come from a lack of having a seasoned player like Callum McGregor in a position? Now, a lot of us, myself included, have spoken about wanting to see Engels in that number 6 role and really being that connective tissue between the midfield and the defence, and being that outball. But it just didn't happen today, did it? So did we really feel the loss of McGregor today?
I think we did. And Engels showed his composure at times, but yeah, like, he didn't really know how to problem solve what was coming up against him. He didn't know how to get around the formation that was put in front of him. He couldn't quite guide players around him, which is something that Callum McGregor will do. McGregor will take and drive. Again, not something Engels does too often. What he does is he takes it and then opens his body up and looks for an angle, for a pass. He's very good at it, but there was times today where we needed someone to take a touch into space and even take a foul. Sometimes you need to take a foul, and the first half for sure, we were just didn't want to be engaging in these physical contacts, and it was really it worked against us, and it really cost us a lot in that first half.
Yep, absolutely. Two players I think that if you were looking to give pass marks today, certainly for me as I was watching it, and I think the second half in particular, would be Jota and Maeda. Maeda giving everything for the cause as usual, gets himself on the score sheet after some great work from Jota. Jota, it's clear to see the fitness is still not necessarily where we need it to be, but I thought he, certainly as the game wore on, he grew into a position of much more influence. He was certainly seemed to be the most creative outlet, something we badly lacked in the first half from Kuhn, and that was obviously recognised by the manager who hooked Kuhn at half time. Maeda showing he can be equally dangerous in the wing as he is up front, but while those two, I think for me, probably get pass marks. Nawrocki coming back in as well, after playing 23 minutes worth of football all season, I think acquitted himself reasonably well, if not playing outstanding. Anyone else for you, Sean, that gets pass marks, or is it just collectively a poor performance? I don't want to play individuals too much, but I think just looking.
When we were on the front foot, McCowan was good, but he was one of the biggest culprits in the first half. So, but in the second half, he was better, So I don't, not too much in terms of pass marks today. Schmeichel was poor. Nawrocki was poor. Yeah, Carter Vickers wasn't great. Alistair Johnson had a decent first half, but was poor in the second half. Pretty much directly to blame for the third goal. Sorry, I should say. Even Schlupp at one point was strolling when it looked like he could have been getting to the ball. I thought Schlupp was good in an attacking sense, but I thought defensively he was actually pretty poor today. And
probably his worst game so far, I think, for me. I think a little bit one-paced today, I would say, Schlupp.
Yeah, I mean he's probably guilty for the first goal, and then there's just other times where he's just ball watching in defence. But he did put a shift in going forward, so I don't want to be too harsh in that sense. But yeah, midfield, it was congested in there. It was never going to be anything other than a battle with the numbers in there, and we lost that battle in the first half, and we came for it in the second half and hit when we were on top, Hatate was looking good and McCowan was looking good, but we didn't do enough. We didn't work those 1-2s enough, and whenever we did get a play on, it was either we bottled it or they would just commit a foul and be fine. Like they just get away with it. So that was their game plan that worked, as you can tell from the result. So
Absolutely. Now you're right. We don't want to spend too much time talking about the refereeing decision. I know there was a fair amount of dark arts applied by our opponents today, but what I would say, in fact, speaking of dark arts, we'll just ban one of the dark arts practitioners from the chat. Bye bye.
Hey, that's a subscriber to this channel, Chris.
I'm going to hedge my bets and say that probably wasn't a subscriber.
They're not allowed to comment if they're not subscribers.
Well, maybe so. Well, we'll see. I've temporarily banned them, so we'll see. But the one thing I would say about the refereeing performance, there were at least 2 occasions where I thought you could essentially call red cards for tackles on our players in that second half. One on Maeda, and then the next one on Yang. As obviously the resident referee, Sean, how did you see both of those decisions? I don't think any action was taken on either of them. No intervention from that.
I didn't think they were red cards, to be honest, but I did think they were both clear yellow cards, neither, which was not given. So I think Maeda does get a foul. I can't remember if it was an advantage. The Yang one was an advantage, but they were both pretty stuck on yellow cards, cynical fouls, the sort of thing we were hearing about before the game, and the last time we played Aloha, going for ankles, and look, mate, they did it the whole game. It was on show, and like it's kind of back to the old days, right, where they're allowed to do that and refs just let them away with it. So I don't know, should we be doing that? I feel like if we do that, we get a red card. Think of Simunovic in the red card he got, so I don't know, it's like a 2-tier of refereeing here. That's the way it feels at times, right?
Yeah, but I think as we've said, like we can't deflect away from performance by looking at the refereeing performance or decisions. I think my view on that was simply around making sure our players are protected, because 2 potential injuries there, which is not what you want to see. Either way, I think, going back to our performance, we spoke a lot about Casper in the pre-match, how impressed we've been. But today, that was a performance I've not really seen from Casper Schmeichel. I know there's been a tendency for the odd mistake, and generally you've won possibly every few games that you get away with. But it looked a different player today. It just didn't look as though he was confident. Was that something to do with the change in backline, do you think? Or just did he get rattled by the first misplaced pass and couldn't quite get back on it? But mentally, it looked as though he just wasn't up to the very high standard that he set this season.
Yeah, I think. Well, he's actually looked a bit shaky in terms of his passing in the last few games. He's not been as confident. He still gets a few good ones every game, but I think a lot of that is to do with, you're right, Trusty or Scales are normally a lot closer to the byline, a lot more lateral for him, whereas Nawrocki was much higher. You see that at the chance that where he tries to pass to Schlupp and Czerny basically should score, and that kind of comes from Nawrocki's way out of position. He's in terms of the passing line that we should be holding. Yes, that's definitely Schmeichel's fault. Yes, there's a few on him today. Yes, his passing has been not quite as sharp the last few weeks. I wonder, if teams are kind of scouting that in some way and picking out those angles, maybe. And there's probably also something to be said for just the players that are missing. Scales and Trusty would have made a difference in a sense today, certainly on the ball. I don't think Nawrocki did too much wrong defensively. I think he can do better at that third goal, but I don't think it's his fault by any means. But yeah, look, who were we missing today, right? We had Forrest out, Bernardo out, McGregor out, Trusty out, Scales out. So there's 5 first-team players out. And then, do we win the game if they're there? Maybe, maybe not. Hard to say. But the fact that we only make 2 subs kind of speaks to what was going on today, right?
I was going to come to that. Does that highlight where we have real work to do in the summer in terms of recruitment? Now, I know we don't buy players specifically to beat Rangers, and domestically we should have largely enough about us. But when you looked at the bench today, and it's been pointed out in the comments, which I will come to the comments shortly and bring a few up, but it's been pointed out in the comments that in an attempt to win the game, Barry Ferguson brings on 3 players. We bring on 2 players when we should also be looking to go and try and win the game. And does that indicate that we were really on the bare bones in terms of the bench? And actually, it's not so much about numbers, but we need quality backup and quality in depth. I know we've got a few players injured, but you'd have to say Forrest is not likely to be a long-term solution. All credit where it's due in terms of his achievements to date, but we need someone that's going to be there for the longer term. You're looking at Scales. The Scales is not really a player that's going to come in and win the match, and Bernardo's not had that many minutes. So what does this team need to avoid more results like this? Where do we need to strengthen?
Like, to your pick, I'd say obviously up front, because we lost Kyogo, didn't replace him. So if Maeda is able to start the game on the wing today, then we could be bringing Jota off the bench instead of and Yang actually did well when he came on. I thought he was pretty lively.
I was going to mention that he at times did well with the ball and put himself about pretty well.
Yeah. So he would do no harm to him. He actually, he didn't hit the byline like Jota did, but he did cut in at pace and was quite decisive with his passing, even if it wasn't the most dangerous of passing. I thought he did do well. But yeah, I think if you get a striker and we probably need one other. Not quite sure in the position though, but I think the key really is quality and depth, right?
Yeah.
The bench was just too light today. Yeah, we've got 5 first-team players out, but yeah, that means there's only 4 first-team players on the bench, and we should have more than 9 backup first-team players, to be honest, if we're hoping to compete in across 60 games a season or whatever as we're playing. It's a worrying concern that this trend. We've now conceded over the last 3 games against them. We've conceded 9 goals. Scored 5, but still conceding 9. That tells you something. So maybe defense is the issue. Maybe that number 6 position is the issue. Maybe we need someone in there with a bit of fight. Because the 2 games where we had McGregor, we still conceded 6 goals in 2 games, and then we conceded another 3 today. So, I think we've had that conversation as well about regarding Europe. We need someone a bit more bigger, powerful, don't know how you would describe that sort of person, N'Golo Kante kind of mold. I don't know, something like that.
Yeah.
To be a bit, yeah. Victor Wanyama, something like that. So I think that's probably where I'd be targeting. Yeah, look, they have what they showed today was a mentality issue as well. So I think that needs to be addressed, and that's something that we can do without signing players, and that's what Rodgers and Kennedy should be looking at this week.
Yeah, and actually on that, there's something that I want to relate back to a comment Craig McMeekin comes in and said, we've had all week to prepare. That looks like a problem. I would agree with that to an extent. I think, look, we were 16 points clear at the start of this game. We're 13 points clear. Let's not take anything away from what this team's done over the course of the season. This is hardly a crisis situation, although it's never nice to lose these games, as we know. We're not used to it, right? And we don't want to come across as entitled. But I think, when you look at how we've been playing this season, look at what we've got at our disposal. You look at how our opposition's been playing up to this point, European trivials aside. But why did we look like a team that just weren't mentally prepared today? Has that got to be on the manager? Because we saw the manager, he has got the ability to adapt. We saw it when we had the result against Dortmund, and he came back and it looked as though he had the players, refocused and realigned and everything for the European games coming up there, and we actually improved our performance and we seemed to cut out a lot of the mistakes. But today we looked like a team that, as we said, passing was poor at times. We couldn't seem to keep the ball. We didn't have a shape which allowed for the outball from the defence. These are things that you'd expect the manager to recognise, and he's got to recognise that going into the upcoming games, because 13 points or not, as fans we don't want to see more performances like that. Now, none of us we don't have a God-given right to win every game, but you want to see the effort put in. You want to see the effort, you want to see the mentality, you want to see them playing like champions. And outside of a 20-minute spell today, I don't think we saw that.
Well, you could make the case it was better than Ibrox, because it certainly was. I don't know if it was much better than Hampden, to be honest. I think we were a bit better that day than we were today. But I think at Hampden we had much fewer injuries, so I do wonder if that comes into it. We need to go over to Govan again in April, May, probably. So there'll be another chance for them to show what they're made of. And if it's the same as today, then that's not good enough, and it's a concern for next season. And we need to have a think about the squad makeup at that point, because no matter what they do in terms of signing players, if they can bring fight and we can't, then they're going to win more than they lose, and that's they might not sustain them in games like home to St Mirren, home to Queen's Park, home to Motherwell, tough games, but it'll certainly help them win these derbies. And yeah, I don't like it. I don't like losing derbies. I don't want to see it. I want to see more fight from the team. I always remember going back to games where when you see players like Yeri Yarasek pulling out of 50-50s, and you're like, no, that's not what we need. It's such old school thinking. We've just been so used to for the last 10 years, just killing them with football. Well, it feels like that's not even relevant after today in the last game. We need to, for these derbies, we need to get back to playing with fight and thinking about things that are not just so that the football, when we do get a chance to play, because let's be honest, they came out to stop football today. So when we do get a chance to play our football, we need to make it count, and to do that, you need to combat in the trenches. You need to fight in the trenches to get the right to play your football, and we didn't do that today.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll get into some of the comments now. Latest one from Bobby Killen. Good attitude. Take it on the chin. Win the league. Hope to win the cup, and let's move on to next season. Yeah, it's a difficult one. It's a difficult one because it does stick in your craw a little bit when you lose against your rivals. But you're right. We have to take it. Pete comes in to say, just knew it. We can't see a game out. Game management has been a problem in the past, though I thought we'd got past that recently. So. But yeah, it's a fair point. Rumir comes in and says, well, we can't turn up for 20 minutes and expect to get anything from the game. Yep, games go 90 minutes plus. And he always goes back and say Engels never lived up to expectations in the central defensive midfield role today. I would agree with that. I thought it was one of Engels' more ineffective games today. And look, every player's entitled to a bad game. I just think today, of all days, there were too many off it. Noddy Amsterdam comes in to say pedestrian in the middle today. I would agree with that. And River Sea comes in to say, hail, hail, not much to say, we were mince. The lack of Bernardo or Kalmakis 6 has made the difference. At least Nawrocki was good. Hope Maeda was all right. Yeah, he did take a pretty sore one, and Maeda doesn't stay down too often. So really hope he is fitting well going forward. Elaine Caithley, is that? Comes in to say, no excuses, we went there today, they did their homework and fair play to them. He's still minus 13, hail, hail, absolutely, that's the way we need to look at it. Quarterback Punk comes in to say, Brendan knows the squad needs an upgrade next season, it's something to bite at the board. Well, yeah, I think it's a good point. Brendan, we've spoken about the fact he brings a winner's mentality, Sean. He's not a man that likes to lose. We've not had a chance to see his press conference or his interview post-match yet, but I'd imagine he'd be pretty upset with that performance. Is it something he can use to incentivise the board to say, look, give me some investment, there are areas that I need to improve? He also must be looking at players like Forrest and Kalmak and thinking about longevity as well. How do we start to manage the succession for these players?
I think he made that point in Munich, didn't he? When he only made 2 subs in that game as well, and we got outpaced in the end. So yeah, I think yes, that's something Rodgers can do. He can take that to the board. Obviously, the story that came out was that the boards pushed, clapped back at him and said, "Oh, you've got 20 million of talent on your bench when you lose 3-0 at Ibrox." So, but I don't know, man. Like, what I would, if I'm Rodgers, I'm not even thinking about that today. I'm talking to the players and I'm saying, look, do you like losing this? Do you like that feeling? Do you like watching them celebrate in the corner of your stadium? If you do, cheerio. If not, then you can put that in a bottle. And you need to bottle it and you need to remember it and you need to use it to fuel you. And if they're not going to do that, then I despair, to be honest. We all hate losing at anything. We people hate losing at a game of cards. Do you know what I mean? Like, but this is something that we all invest in. And these guys, these professionals, they invest a lot. They invest a lot of time, a lot of effort. Yeah, they get well paid for it, but they put a lot of emotion and physical effort. And if they're not hurting today, then they can go. And hopefully they are hurting, and that they remember that feeling and they use it, because it needs to be done. We can't be doing this again. We can't keep losing to them consistently in derbies. It just becomes a bit of a joke. And like at that point, the only thing that's sustaining our success is their inability to beat the likes of Motherwell, St Mirren and Queen's Park, and that's not going to be a long-term success strategy for us. So we need to figure that out.
Yep, no, I agree with you. I think you're right. Absolutely, use it. In fact, quarterback Punk comes in as well to say, like it, Sean, use it. Yep, we need to bottle it up and use it. And look, sometimes when you have results like this, it makes you appreciate it more when you win, when you get things right, and when you win. Having said that, it doesn't feel like it in the immediate aftermath. However, I do want to just point out we've got over 2,000 joining us on the live stream, so really appreciate that. I'm sure the atmosphere at Bad will be a little bit of a solemn one, but hopefully the analysis and comments from individuals like Bobby Petta will compensate a little bit for that, and sincerely hope everybody gets home safely following the event. Last thing on today's game, Sean, one of the last things. We spoke about the lineup during the pre-match. Very surprised to see Mike Nawrocki come in. How did you view his performance overall today? And given we've got now injuries to Trusty, Scales, Dane Murray, relatively inexperienced, is there an opportunity here for the player to have a bit of a career renaissance for Celtic? Do you think he can maybe get some of the Yang treatment recently and start to show what he's capable of? It sounds like he could get his opportunity.
In a word, no. I thought
nice.
when we were second best in the first half, I thought he did some things defensively well. Got in a couple of blocks. He did well in one-on-ones with Cherney, who is a danger man for them. But I think he was just really harmed us in an offensive capacity. His positioning was poor. When he gets that free header in the first half, he just kind of passes it to Butland. It felt like, I don't know, do you feel like he was trying? Do you feel like he wanted it? Like, I know that's such a cliche to say, did he want it? But it was a free header and he's just headed it straight to Butland and bounced up. Like Butland punches it, but he could have caught it, to be honest. So I don't know. I thought I don't think he improves the team. I think he didn't do badly today. I thought he defended well, but I just think he harms us. Not harms us. That's probably harsh, but like he's a downgrade in quality from what we've got in Scales and Trusty.
Okay, no, that's fair enough. And another point I want to make is we spoke about the lack of options on the bench, but one name that was on the bench was Greg Taylor. Now, the one thing you say about Taylor is he's got plenty of experience. He's played in these games. He's been a winner in these games before. He's also got the ability to play in midfield. Was he an option that we didn't take advantage of today? Could he have came on and made a difference to the team? Because I think, as many people have said, Jeff Schlupp wasn't his best game so far. But, Taylor, again, conspicuous by not getting off the bench.
It was interesting because one thing that immediately stuck out to me at the start of the second half was that Schlupp had tucked in much more than he had in the first half. So that was obviously something they identified. So
yep.
I did think that Taylor might come in at some point, but he didn't. And I do wonder if that was try to send a message rather than the fact, or maybe it was just because Schlupp offers more in an offensive sense than Taylor does. I don't know, but yeah, he did definitely tuck in more in the second half, which was interesting and something that Greg Taylor's quite well known for.
Absolutely. And he didn't get his hat trick today, but Dyson Maeda get amongst the goals again. Overall, I thought his performance was really, really positive today. I thought he struggled a bit in the first half. I think he only had one touch in the opponent's box in the first half, but in that second half, he really started to influence and just sheer grit and energy at times, driving the ball into the box and trying to make something happen. He's a player that we need to manage, we need to protect, and I think we need to try and retain as we go into the summer because he's so important to any future success we're going to have at this club.
Yeah, and look, we're in middle of March now, and we've got 10 games left if we can beat St Johnstone. So I don't know that there's only one midweek game left, I think, for the whole rest of the season. So I don't think it's too bad in terms of game management. Yeah, I think keep running him. I think get him to 30 goals, get him his Player of the Year awards, and then I don't think it's too much call to rest him. But yeah, I think we need to try and find our way again and get geared back up for the cup semi, cup final. We need to keep momentum going for those sort of games. So I wouldn't be taking them out too much.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Okay, well, as I say, we're over 2100 on the live stream. We'll bring up a few more comments before we finish off. Ross Evans, thank you very much indeed for supporting the channel. The ref was rubbish, but that doesn't mean we can down tools. Yep, I think that's a great point. Midfield made me sick with a lack of fight. The team couldn't string a pass. We spoke pre-match on about the need to make sure we do the simple stuff. And again, even that second half, there were at times where we couldn't seem to make a 5 or a 10-yard pass stick. Which was quite frustrating. Flying Haggis comes in and says Jota came off too soon. He had plenty left in the tank. Yang isn't a Celtic player. Maybe a little harsh on Yang because I didn't think he'd done much wrong when he came on. I would say that he's not done enough yet to give me the confidence that he can come on and be a game changer. And I would also agree with the point. I felt Jota came off far too soon, Sean, because I felt at that time he was probably our most influential player in an attacking sense. And I appreciate we get a goal after he goes off, but he, for me, was starting to really show what he can do at that side. And he didn't look as tired as I've seen him in previous games. So I was a bit surprised at that change. I thought there could have been an opportunity to bring Yang on and possibly take someone like McCowan off, for example. Albeit it would have changed the shape. Did you feel as though Jota still had something to offer in that match?
I don't know. I mean, maybe. Like, he looked like he was he looked like he knew he was running his last few runs. Like, he looked like he knew he was about to get hooked when he was making those runs, to be honest. And I don't think he's really gone past that stage in the game since he's came back. He's still building his fitness. So, yeah, look, I actually think Yang gave us a bit more energy, even though he wasn't as incisive, didn't quite have that same final ball. So I didn't hate the sub. I thought it was okay. Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe legs was what was needed more at that point, but yeah, he didn't quite unfortunately, it didn't quite work out. But I don't know that there was a real problem with that sub, to be honest.
That's fine. Yep. Fair enough. We are at time, so yeah, I just want to put things in context. I mean, let's not have too much of a knee-jerk reaction. Horrible performance today, I think that's fair to say. Showed a degree of resilience to come back to 2 each, but ultimately couldn't see it over the line. We are 13 points clear. I think it's fair to say that we just keep our wits about us. We'll get this over the line. We do have a cup final to come as well, which is really important, or a cup run rather, to make sure we get hopefully a treble. And then at the end of the day, when people are looking at the names on the trophies, they won't really remember this result. Having said that, as fans, we do want to see improvements on today, so hopefully we'll see that. Just want to say thank you very, very much to the 2,000 plus that have joined us on the live stream. Really, really appreciate it. And believe me, it's not always easy to drag ourselves onto do this coverage, but we will do it irrespective of the performance or the result. So I do want to say thanks to Sean for sticking with me today and sticking with the show. Hope everyone has a great rest of your Sunday as much as you can. Let's put this one behind us and we move on. Hail, hail.
Yeah, well.